Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel, and today we're going to look at the Champions League results here, the Champions League Sapporo results from Japan this past weekend. Now, these results are actually really interesting because they are playing in our Twilight Masquerade format. They have all of the cards from Twilight Masquerade, and they have a bit of a different meta because of the new cards in the new set, actually making a pretty big impact on the format itself. And it's really surprising to actually see a couple of the decks that actually ended up doing really good in the tournament, especially the deck that won the tournament, I think really did catch some people off guard, including myself. I did not expect this deck to actually win this Champions League, considering where this deck stands in our current format in the Temporal Forces meta. But yeah, if y'all are new to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We're on the road to 14,000 subs here on the second channel. And if you go on to enjoy the video, leave a like. Let me know what you think of the Champions League results down below. These are basically gonna it might dictate what will do good at NEIC this year. Of course, NEIC will be in the Twilight Masquerade format, so there's a good chance these results will impact NEIC quite a bit. So I'll leave a link to Limitless here down in the description below if you want to go check out these decks for yourself. Starting things off with the deck that won the tournament, it was, of course, Miraidon. And this is the big surprise. Miraidon is back in the meta. It just took down this Champions League. Now, we want to talk about why Miraidon won the Champions League. So, for starters, Miraidon is really good in a meta where Charizard probably doesn't exist, right? So, Charizard has fallen off recently with this new set that has come out in Japan. I mean, if we look at all the other decks, there is no Charizard in the entire top 16. There is not a single Charizard EX deck to be seen. And that is mainly because something like Dragapult and even Lugia just really beat down on Charizard. Charizard is getting bullied out of the meta, it seems, in Japan right now. Now, this could change. Charizard could win NEIC and we could all be proven wrong. Or it looks like Charizard has finally been pushed out of the format, and this allows decks like Miraidon to actually succeed. Now, the issue with playing these big basic EX decks in our current format, apart from Roaring Moon, is that Charizard just absolutely obliterates you. Charizard is it's a gatekeeper. It is a big gatekeeper for all these two-prize EX decks to ever see play, because Charizard, if they're not knocking out Charizard in one hit, the game is just over because Charizard just Burning Darknesses for a knockout. But a deck like Miraidon can actually succeed when Charizard is gone. Now, the other reason why Miraidon won is because of Lugia. Lugia is now a top-tier deck in Japan, and that's mainly because Lugia does gain Legacy Energy, which is a massive upgrade to the deck. So Miraidon obviously just destroys Lugia, and that's why it's doing good right now. Now, Miraidon did have to take down a Gardevoir in the finals, which makes sense. Another reason why Miraidon did win this Champions League is Japan plays in a best-of-1 format. A deck like Miraidon is really, really good for best-of-1, mainly because a lot of the time you get to either win on the spot by donking your opponent, or because you're such a fast and aggressive deck, you're basically forcing your opponent's deck to actually function at 100% in order to keep up with a Miraidon deck. And in a best-of-1 scenario, that is very difficult to do. Like, if your deck has, like, one turn of bricking against Miraidon, the game might just end. And that's kind of why Miraidon is so strong in Japan's meta here. And that's why it won the tournament. But it does look like it is going to be a good deck in our new format. Again, if Charizard does fall off like it has done in this, format for Japan, we could see Miraidon coming back in a big way for NEIC. Really, the only thing different about Miraidon is obviously there's no more Flaffy in the deck, no more Raihan, so accelerating energy is a little bit more trickier to do in the late game. But in the early game, you still have a Generator. Generator is really good. As long as you hit a couple energy each Generator, you're fine. You still have a ton of power with Generator. We see this build playing at 16 Lightning Energy. It's got the 2 double turbos for the double Iron Hands. You're either going aggro hands or you're just going fast with Photon Blaster. There is still the Raikou and the Raichu, the Mew and the Squawkabilly. There is one new card, however. Well, actually, a couple new cards, I guess. There is the Iron Bundle. Iron Bundle is really good with Iron Hands because your opponent is sometimes forced to bring in a Pokemon with low HP. And then, of course, you have Tatsugiri. Now, this is a great new upgrade to this deck. It does have that ability attracting customers, where if it's in the active spot, you can look at the top 6 cards of your deck and reveal a supporter card you find there and put it in your hand. So Tatsugiri is really, really good at finding you supporter cards, which can help you play the game. And this deck doesn't mind having that setup with Tatsugiri. Like, sometimes you go Tatsugiri with a Squawkabilly, you're basically just playing like 2 supporters in a single turn. If you go, second with the Squawk ability. The deck also plays 4 research. No Iono, though. The big difference is the only draw on the deck is literally the 4 research. But when you have the Tatsugiri, maybe it doesn't matter. Still plays Arven. There is a Heavy Baton, which does work with Iron Hands. I think the one thing to note, this deck does not play, which kind of surprises me, there's no EXP share. Which doesn't seem like a bad card to play in Miraidon, especially when you want to use Raichu. But yeah, this build does not run any copies of EXP share. So the second place list was, of course, Gardevoir. Now, Gardevoir did get a couple of new upgrades with the new set. Now, there is a couple A-specs you could play. A lot of the Guardy lists we looked at before in the past videos were using Unfair Stamp as the A-spec. This build actually decides to play the Hyper Aroma, which does allow you to get 3 stage 1s into your hand. So use Hyper Aroma to basically just get triple Kirlia. It kind of acts as like a Mirage Step effect, where you can just go grab 3 Kirlias, evolve each of your Ralston to Kirlia. Now, the other big thing this deck gains is the brand new Monkey Dory. This card actually ends up being a very relevant card in this deck. So basically, it's got the ability where if there is a Dark Energy on this Pokemon, you can move up to 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. This basically means you get to heal one of your Pokemon that you use Gardevoir's ability to, while also putting more damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon. So this card actually plays a pretty big role in Gardevoir, because it does allow you to do more damage, which is pretty insane. And this Monkey Dory definitely is going to be a very strong card to have within the Gardevoir deck here. The deck also uses, the simple stuff, the 2 Drifloon, the Screamtail, the Fluttermane. There's a Cresselia. That's a card you haven't really seen as much in Gardevoir. The build also doesn't play any copies of Mimikyu in the deck. A lot of the modern Gardevoir lists right now in our format are running Mimikyu. This build does not play Mimikyu. Also plays Temple of Sinnoh. Makes sense because you want to counter Gift Energy with Iono. One interesting thing, too, is it plays 4 Irida over Arven. Considering tools are a very important factor in why Gardevoir is good, this Guardy list does not play any Arven. It actually opts for Irida instead. And I think the logic behind playing Irida is that you can get Greninja or Manaphy early on in the game to, kind of give you either more draw or to help you against, like, bench sniping attacks. That's probably why there's 4 Irida. Arven still feels like it should be really good in here, but it opts to play the Greninja Manaphy with the 4 Irida, so maybe that's just the way to go. But yeah, this Guardy list is definitely interesting, and Monkey Dory does upgrade the deck. But here's where things get really good, is that where Dragapult EX is going to start taking over the meta. Now, we've already looked at some Dragapult lists already, but Dragapult EX is looking like it is legit going to be a meta threat. There is a good chance Dragapult bullies something like Charizard out of the format completely, and that's because of Dragapult having a very good attack against decks with low HP Pokemon. With Phantom Dive doing 200 damage, you can put 6 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon in any way you like. That is a very powerful attack. 200 damage is a lot of damage already, and then you're putting 6 damage on the bench. This bypasses Jirachi. This KOs a lot of little Pokemon like Pidgey. You're almost knocking out Comfeys, nearly KOing the 70 HP Charmander. You're knocking out Bidoofs. You're KOing Frigibaxes. It's a very powerful attack. This attack alone might start gatekeeping the format a little bit, where now instead of big basics being good, like how Charizard is stopping those from being good, now Dragapult might be stopping low HP Pokemon from ever seeing play. Now, Dragapult is a very scary card to have in the format, and it is definitely going to be good. Now, it did still get top 4 at this Champions League. Surprisingly enough, Gardevoir, which does seem like a deck that does get bullied out of the format by Dragapult, was able to still get second place in the tournament. So I'm not too sure if Guardy actually beats Dragapult, or maybe the Guardy player got lucky and didn't play as much Dragapult as they should have, because I just feel like Dragapult should beat Gardevoir, mainly because Dragapult just kind of swallows Gardevoir alive, especially when if you have to, use Drifloon, overextend your damage counters, Dragapult can just go like Gust around the Drifloon and then knock it out with that secondary effect. Now, this Dragapult build is a little bit more simplistic. It opts to play a 2-2 Xatu line to accelerate energy on your Dragapult. It does require a Fire and a Psychic Energy. And it also plays the Rotoms in the deck, because Instant Charge, we all know, is really good right now to help set up your Stage 2 Pokemon. Now, one thing also about Dragapult is it doesn't need like a super big draw engine, mainly because you do have the Dracloak here with Surveillance, which allows you to look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one in your hand and then the other at the bottom of your deck. It's an Airmail reprint from an old Pidgeotto that was very, very good back in the day. So this Dracloak is definitely going to be very, very good to have within Dragapult. That's what makes Dragapult so scary. Not only is it a very strong gatekeepy attacker, but it also has a built-in draw engine with Dracloak. It's kind of insane how that works. And then the A-spec of choice in this Dragapult build is Unfair Stamp, which we all know Unfair Stamp is a pretty unfair card, allowing you to force your opponent to draw 2 cards and you draw 5 cards and they shuffle their hand in their deck. It's basically Roxanne on an item card. It's kind of insane. So yeah, Unfair Stamp over Neo Upper Energy is definitely interesting. There are a couple other Dragapult lists here in the top 16, but the highest performing one was a more, straightforward build, which is Xatu and Rotom's in the deck, so keep that in mind going forward. There's a Lugia in top 4, which is no surprise. Lugia is going to be a very good deck in this new format. Now, we said that, with Temporal Forces and Rotation, that Lugia was going to be a really good deck. I won that last Champions League, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, look at that, Lugia didn't do as well in this meta, it kind of sucks. No, this time actually it might be a legit real deck, especially now that we are seeing the meta shift a little bit, and that's why Miraidon won. Lugia is debatably the second best deck in Japan right now. The best deck is probably Dragapult, and then you got Lugia just below it. And that's probably why we saw Miraidon win, is because the Miraidon player might have just hit a ton of Lugias and just farmed all of them. Now, the big thing that makes Lugia good is it now has Legacy Energy. It's basically got a brand new Rainbow Energy card that you can actually use with other energy types, unlike Luminous Energy. Legacy Energy does provide a rainbow effect. When the Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out by damage from opponent's attack, they take one fewer prize card. For doing that, you can only use the Legacy Energy effect once a game, so if you were to retrieve this card with Roseanne's backup, you can't do that twice. But basically, it gives you a free rainbow effect. That does allow you to play something like the Iron Hands EX, which is the big benefactor of Legacy Energy. Now Lugia has the ability to either use Cinccino to blow something up in the active for 2 prizes, or if there's something small in the active, they can amp it for a knockout with Iron Hands EX. That's what makes Lugia so scary. Now, Lugia also does get the new Blood Moon or Saluna, which is another big upgrade of the deck. It's just a really strong attacker. It is basically a colorless Radiant Charizard, and this is another really good upgrade of the deck. It's also an attacker you can use early on in the game. Even if you want to just put like 3 to 4 energy on it, this thing is still a really good attacker. 240 damage is a lot of damage to do. Not only that, Ursaluna has 260 HP. It is a beefy basic Pokemon. Other than that, Lugia still has all the normal stuff you see in there, the 3/3 Cinccino line. It actually opts to play Carmine, which allows you to discard your hand, draw 5 cards. It's a weaker research, but if you go first, you can use this card in your first turn, and you can still use the effect to discard, draw 5. So going first with this deck now means not only does Lugia always want to go first already, because it's a deck that, is evolving, but also now the fact that it goes first, you also get the even bigger benefit of playing Carmine going first too, which is a pretty big upgrade to this deck. So this is all why Lugia is looking really good and why it did get top 4 in the tournament. This Dragapult build that did get top 4 is a Lost Zone Dragapult deck, which is very interesting to see. A Lost Zone Dragapult deck. Now, Lost Zone does look like it could get a little worse with Twilight Masquerade, and that's because Dragapult is really, really good against Comfey, right? Comfey has 7 HP. Dragapult EX does eat Comfeys for breakfast, so it does look like Lost Box is going to be potentially bullied out of the meta, much like Charizard is, but Lost Zone could still work with Dragapult. I mean, Dragapult Lost Zone does make sense. It's kind of like just playing like Lost Zone Charizard EX, basically, except Dragapult is a little bit of a stronger attacker in a Lost Zone deck because it has better synergy with Sableye, right? When you have that Phantom Dive attack when in combination with Lost Mine, there's better synergy there. Of course, also Comfey does allow you to activate Mirage Gate, which is a great way to power up Dragapult's awkward fire and psychic attack cost. So it's a very interesting concept. It did get top 8 after all, so maybe there is some legitimacy to a Lost Zone Dragapult EX deck. Would it even be better in the mirror, though? I guess that's the one thing to note about Lost Zone Dragapult. Is it a better deck for the mirror match? I guess maybe because you have Sableye. Alright, Snorlax still continues to live on in the meta. It is another deck that does get a bit of an upgrade with the new set, mainly with a new card. The Performance Flute, allowing you to reveal the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck, put any number of basic Pokemon you find there onto their bench. Pretty annoying way to get around your opponent playing around Snorlax by not, putting any important liabilities in their hand. This can just force them into play, which is a really cheesy card. So, yeah, this could be annoying. If Snorlax actually does come back in the format, it's going to be a little disheartening, not going to lie. Because right now, Snorlax was bullied out by how good Charizard ended up being with how good the techs are for the Snorlax matchup, but it looks like Snorlax could be coming back in full swing. It also did gain the Handy Fan tool card. When it's attached to a Pokemon, you move an energy from the attacking Pokemon to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, so it's another way to kind of play around your opponent trying to counter Snorlax by removing the energy to other Pokemon on the bench. So Snorlax looks like it could be a legit deck now. Once again, it looks like it might come back into the format in a big way. We'll have to see. But keep in mind, too, Snorlax could be better in this best of 1 format anyways, right? So there's that. Now, there is, unfortunately, the Miraidon list is unavailable here from the top 8, but the Dragapult list is available. And it's another Xatu build with Rotom in it. The A-Spec actually being Prime Catcher this time around. to help with the gust. But yeah, there was 3 Dragapult in the top 8, which is not surprising considering Dragapult is getting a ton of hype right now in Japan, and who knows, when it comes over with Twilight Masquerade in a few weeks, it might also be a good deck, right? We got another Lugia outside the top 8. Also playing Legacy Energy, not playing the new supporter, still playing Research in the deck over the new supporter. Does have Weird Ear in the deck. Also, a card we haven't really seen in Lugia in a while, but I guess Weird Ear does make sense to have in here. Still has the Iron Hands and the Legacy Energy. Also playing 3 Mazagoza. Looks like there was an Ancient Box deck in the top 16. I'm happy to see this. I'm a big fan of Ancient Box. I definitely want to try Ancient Box in this new format. It could be okay. I don't think it's terrible into, like, Dragapult. It might be okay into Lugia, too. We'll have to see on that. Miraidon should be a good matchup. Obviously, Gardevoir, another pretty good matchup for Ancient Box. But doesn't really get anything new with the new set. Just kind of stays the same. You can see the Pokemon lineup is pretty similar. 4 Miraidon, or 4 Koraidon, 4 Moon, 3 Fluttermane, Greninja. There's no Cobalion. You might not need Cobalion anymore anyways because Charizard is falling off, right? So that's maybe a good sign. Another Miraidon in top 16 with no deck list available, but there was another Lugia here. And this Lugia does still have the hands, the Cinchinos, the Blood Moon. It does have the new Carmine, but it also has the Ogerpon here. Now, this is another big upgrade to Lugia, because now when you're playing against Lugia, you have to potentially bench Manaphy, and this is why. It's got the attack Torrential Pump that does 100 damage. You can shuffle 3 energy from this Pokemon back into your deck, which means you actually can recover the Legacy Energy and put it back into your deck for later. And if you do, you can do 120 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So you get a really strong snipe attack. It's like playing Delphox V, but you can do this like instantly because you can just Archeops to it. It's kind of scary, actually, not going to lie. This card could be a deciding factor with how good Lugia is. Because now if you're playing against Lugia, you probably have to start benching Manaphy to play around the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, which is kind of freaky to think about. But that Ogerpon does make it so that you might have to be benching Manaphy now when playing against Lugia, because you never know. Gouging Fire in top 16 is definitely interesting. Another, like, Turbo Go fast deck. If all these big basic decks actually get to come back into the format now, this could be a big deal. Like I said, Gouging Fire is a very strong card. I think there's actually a lot of potential for a Gouging Fire deck to be a thing. The problem is Charizard doesn't let Gouging Fire exist. But with Charizard falling off, could be good. Also, Gouging Fire is really good in best of 1, right? Because you can win really fast, right? Like it's like Miraidon. You force your opponent to do something about the Gouging Fire, put on so much pressure. So that's probably why. There's also some cheesy grabbers in the deck. Grabber is probably just there literally to be able to deny your opponent, access to playing the game. That's probably what this deck is trying to do, looking at it. There's another Lugia here, of course. This one does have the Wellspring Ogerpon also, so good to know. This one not playing Iron Hands. Instead playing that Ogerpon. Interesting stuff to see for sure. There's a Giratina Lost Zone deck in top 16. Tina might be the only Lost Zone deck other than like Dragapult that can actually survive, because Giratina does allow you to put on a lot of pressure against Dragapult. Maybe that's why. But there is a Lost Box deck still in top 16. So yeah, Lost Box definitely is looking like it's falling off a little bit because of Dragapult. You don't really have any great attackers against it. You do have the Ursaluna and the Raikou in the hands, but ultimately those aren't going to be the best ways to deal with Dragapult. But Lost Box still getting top 16 is nice, because it's another deck that definitely could get bullied out of the format by Dragapult. But maybe just like the pressure of early Sableye could be enough to win you a game against Dragapult, because you can start taking out the Dreepies and the Dracloaks before they become a problem. So that's maybe how Lost Box is going to have to be played now. But there you go, folks. That is the entire top 16 for the recent Champions League. Now, there were some very interesting results. Like I said, Miraidon winning is kind of crazy. Charizard not being seen in the entire top 16 is also pretty wild, considering how good Charizard is in our current format. But yeah, Dragapult looking really good. Miraidon might be another top contender in the format. Stall looking pretty good too. Lugia also looking like it's going to be one of the top decks in the format. And these Champions League results definitely are going to be very important. I mean, this tournament had 2,700 players in it, so definitely very important results to look at. Even if they're in best of 1 and whatnot, these results definitely have an impact on what's going to go down at NEIC this year. But if y'all enjoyed today's video here on the second channel, make sure to leave a like. Let me know what you think of these results at this Champions League in Japan in the comments below. What do you think of Miraidon winning? What do you think of Dragapult and all that good stuff? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on another PG Live video and all that good stuff here on the second channel soon. Bye-bye.